Good morning, friends of the channel.
Hello.
Today we're working on this sideboard that actually used to be in a chicken coop.
Yes.
They used to keep the chickens' feed in it. Come to say hello, good girl. They kept the chickens' feed in it, and this is how it looks today. It was about to be thrown away. A bit of dignity, Pina, please. A bit of dignity. Anyway, when this sideboard was about to be thrown away, I took it because it really bothers me to see an antique piece of furniture, almost 100 years old like this one, just being thrown out. That said, now we're going to get to work on it, especially giving it a really deep clean, because this is the inside. Everything you're seeing is real. This is just how it is. The ceiling is collapsing, everything's falling apart. There's some paper, the little bell, and when Pina hears it, she likes it. So we'll give it to Pina as a present. And that's it. The only guarantee of success is, as always, that it's all wood, so it absolutely has to be saved. Shall we get started? Let's get started. Never show you this part of the work because we think it might be boring, but actually, in my opinion, it's really important. With a piece of furniture like this, in this condition, we can't think about being gentle and delicate. As you can see, we have several brushes here to get into the nooks and crannies, and we are also vacuuming the inside because there was all sorts of stuff in here, sometimes even some unwanted items. So please remember, when you start working on an old piece of furniture, you have to clean it thoroughly. Lay it down, open it, remove everything, clean it thoroughly, even several times, and always rinse it, obviously with wrung-out sponges. We're inspecting the piece for parts needing replacement. I'm worried by the fact that there are many woodworm holes, but old, beautiful, even worm-eaten woods often have charm. So we'll sand it down and see what comes out. This is the back panel of the piece. It really is a beautiful wood, actually. Now I'll sand a bit more here, where there's a sort of burn mark, maybe. At the back, as you can see, it had been reinforced like this, with an old piece of wood. I'll probably take it off now and reinforce it even more, but I'll keep it because it's really lovely. It's got its years, but it's solid, and despite the woodworms, which are gone now, it's fine wood. I won't throw it away. To make this display cabinet presentable, my friends Emma and Franco helped me. We cut, glued, sawed, and even used the staple gun. We did everything. Why? Because they were lovely, super solid pieces of wood, but they were all split up. Even the bottom was cracked in half and had questionable bits of wood holding it together. The back panel was completely moldy, so I had to replace it. Since it was a very porous material, like cardboard, not raw wood, and it would never have had a scent worthy of the name. We changed the back panel and reinforced the whole cabinet. The drawers are perfect. They are no longer split. The crack is gone, and the drawers that got stuck work perfectly. The lower shelves as well. The cabinet frame is very solid, and of course the top part too. But that's not all, because before painting, I want to sand down the top and bring it back to bare wood. But before doing that, I need to strip the paint off the glass panels. And why am I stripping paint from the glass? I'm stripping it because I don't like this painting. It's not valuable or high quality. On top of that, it's very damaged. I don't think it's a painting done by an artist. It might be pleasant. Someone might have enjoyed playing with colors. But it doesn't suit the style I want to give this display cabinet. So I will strip it off. I did a test run. So I applied the paint stripper to this first panel of glass, and as you can see, in many spots the stripper is already turning orange. You can see it's no longer that nice classic green magic paint. It's a bit dirtier now, and that's because it's starting to dissolve. Probably, when these glasses were painted back in the day, people probably used gold powder, and as you can see, it's already starting to strip from the corners. Look, you can see here it's coming off. So I absolutely don't want to damage the glass. I don't want to ruin it. So I'll let the stripper work a bit longer, and when it's just right, we'll start removing it. You can see here that bits of old paint are already coming off, and there are quite a few smudges. You can see that it was done by someone who was just having a bit of fun, not by a professional artist. Now I'm adding the paint stripper, about 4 generous spoonfuls. When you need to remove fairly thick layers of paint, always remember that the stripper needs to be applied quite generously, all right. It shouldn't be spread on too thinly, because as you can see, it needs to do its job of soaking in. It has to penetrate deep into the furniture. So it's right to be a bit more generous with it. If it's hot and windy, make sure, as well as occasionally working it in with the brush, you also cover it with some plastic film. This way it won't dry out, as there is no air coming in. Anyway, the best way to do a good restyling and a proper paint stripping is always to be a bit generous with the paint remover, so never be stingy when applying it, and to occasionally brush it a bit. So even if you cover it and leave it for 2 hours, remember, from time to time, you should always go back and brush with the paintbrush. While the glass is being stripped, I'll sand the top part of this lovely piece of furniture. Look, now by connecting the sander with a 120 grit, I've attached it underneath here, to the vacuum cleaner, I get a perfect result. Smooth, velvety, and I don't make any dust at all, which is important. It's stripped very well, even though, since there are still some traces of powder, it will definitely be a good idea to go over it with some alcohol. If you look closely here, when I run the spatula over it, you can see that everything comes off. You can see the background. You can see how it comes away. Look, when you move it, it comes off. The only thing is, you mustn't scrape too hard, because we're still working on glass, which is why, after removing all the paint stripper and everything that comes off with it, I won't press any harder, but I'll remove the remaining residue from the glass. Look over here, where the oranges were, how it comes off. So, please, I'm being very, very gentle, because obviously you have to be delicate on glass. Here on the green, they must have used more layers of paint. I'll remove everything, take it all off, and then decide whether to apply another coat, but I don't think so. I'll probably just go straight in with the alcohol.
I put masking tape on the glass before painting so that I don't smudge. This is how it works. I gently apply the tape to the glass and then use a small spatula to firmly press it into the corner, and then I trim it with a craft knife. This way, I'm sure that my paint won't dirty the glass or drip down. This method is perfect for mirrors too.
I continue like this along the whole door.
Maybe today it's the right time to say it. Let's get started with this first coat of paint before I lose hope. It's so ugly we've cut, removed, and put things back together, and we must get going. This is the remedy. When you start applying the first coat of paint, everything already begins to change. The wood changes. It starts to come to life. I use the Elizabeth brush and Olivia, a beautiful green that suits the furniture's shape. This is the perfect remedy. You can already clearly see that it adheres exceptionally well, and you immediately start to get a much better sense of what shape the restyling will take. As always, make sure to follow the natural grain of the wood. So, when the wood naturally runs horizontally, you should paint horizontally, exactly like I'm doing right now. When the wood runs vertically, you simply take the brush and go vertically, just like this. This is the best and most effective way to apply it. Even better, if you manage to do a crossed brush stroke, going both horizontally and then vertically, to really allow the color to be smoothed out. Here too, I first brushed horizontally, and now I'm going vertically like this, and I carry on. Emma, will you please help me too?
Yes.
Right, let's get started too, Olivia. 2 cans already opened half used, 2 Elizabeth brushes, and let's cover up this ugly base. A beautiful coat of Nuit Parisienne Wall, which already contains a water-repellent protective coating on the inside of the cabinet. Why? Because I don't like this mishmash of woods, plus they're a bit worn and rather ugly. And obviously, I need to apply now a color that will be perfect for the wallpaper I've decided to put inside. Look, with one coat I get the perfect, final color, and I end up with a really lovely result because, look, the woods are completely blended, the paint has already protective coating, so I don't even need to add an extra protective layer inside, and above all, it smells nice. So, when you have old furniture with wood that's maybe been through a bit, the wall is always the best solution. A good coat of wall everywhere, and then, the cherry on top, the wallpaper. The surprise for this sideboard is the beautiful wallpaper. Let's say something really quickly. We called the last sideboard that we did with wallpaper from this collection.
Disagreement.
Why's that, Emma?
Because it sparked mixed opinions.
Some people said it looked like Grandma Pina's sideboard. Some said it was bold, strong and aggressive, and as always, someone said we'd ruined a historic piece. It wasn't a historic piece. It was a beautiful, rustic, cool piece, and it suited the wallpaper perfectly. Those who didn't see it in person may not have understood our intellectual choice, the choice of this particular wallpaper. Those who were lucky enough to come here on the 6th to 7th of September saw it in person before we sold it because, in reality, we sold it very quickly. In fact, I even kept it for a few more days to show it at the event. In 4 days, this piece of furniture was sold. What does this mean? Spending hours being a keyboard warrior, saying it looks bad, doesn't make sense and is pointless. We are the means to reach you with our explanations. It's up to you to understand to match colors, pair wallpapers, and choose styles, and I stop there. Yes, but the catalogue is the same, so. Bedford Park by Morris. Again, this is an original Morris catalogue. He designed them. There's a date. Do you see what we're talking about? We're talking about designs dating back to the 1800s. So let's not focus on the exact date, whether it's early 1800s, mid, or late. These are designs that were created in the 1800s. Of course it needs a restyling, that's how fashion is. There are colors matched with the fabrics in this catalogue as well, and they are beautiful. Designs with the same tones on different fabrics. And here we go. This is the wallpaper Emma and I chose today. We chose Olivia for the furniture frame to enhance these beautiful leaves, which even have light and shadow. If you look closely, the front leaves, which are in the light, have a white inside, while the back leaves, needing to create shadow, have a brown inside. To create a wallpaper like this, Franco must skillfully show the texture, because if you touch it, you'll notice an embossing made precisely with the ink, printed in relief. First, the wallpaper base was dyed, then embossed with leaves and branches, followed by a third embossing with oranges, pomegranates, and everything else you see. This entire catalogue is like this, crafted in multiple layers. These wallpaper rolls are handmade. The application and the printing are handmade, with several tones in multiple stages. Each roll has been handled and carefully adjusted by a craftsman many times. I say that because if you find a smudge, it's not a flaw, it's a mark of quality because it's handmade. Handmade items aren't perfect. Not with painting, not with restyling, not with anything else. This catalogue is beautiful, I'll show you. I can picture it in a playful, lively kitchen with royal green. This paper is incredible. Look at these leaves. The acanthus leaves are amazing. Here there are other stronger, more vibrant tones. Look here, you can see it in its entirety, but here, when it's applied, look how playful it becomes with the tiles laid horizontally, with the matching fabric section. In short, this is a catalogue we're absolutely in love with, truly in love with, right? And every time we try to make a bolder combination, but with a strong, fashionable vibe, we fall for it. Morris always lingers in our thoughts. So, Emma, this is one of my favorites, you know that. I mean this one in every color. 1, 2, 3. And no, there's also the black one, but maybe the black one comes first. There's even a black one, so I think in the next tutorial I'll use one of these here. The Sanderson with the tulip flowers. Enough chit-chat, let's put it at the back of the display cabinet. We've gone to all this trouble to strip paint, and now we're putting on lovely wallpaper. Let's make 2 marks at a height of 63.5, because that's the height we've decided to go with, even though the cabinet is crooked, so there might be issues. 63.5 here, 63.5 there. With dark paper, always turn it over, so you don't make mistakes. A very sharp knife. Then let's measure the second piece of wallpaper as well. I'll place it next to it, in the other panel. I really hate waste, so when I make wallpaper paste and there's some left over, I never throw it away. It doesn't matter if it costs just a few euros. I can't stand waste, and I can't stand throwing away jars. This one here is an old Jasmine Wax jar, which has a lid. It closes perfectly, and it doesn't let air in. So, I have the Saratoga wallpaper paste, dissolved in water, which has turned out creamy and perfect. I keep it for when I need to use wallpaper. So, I suggest you use this trick. Never throw it away. Even if you created it some months ago, nothing happens. It's perfect and usable. I spread a light layer over the wooden surface because when you're working on wood, it's different. It's not like working on a wall. The wall absorbs less than wood does. So first, I spread a layer over the surface. Then, when it's dry and starts to set, I apply a second, generous layer. This is the layer that will be absorbed into the paper. Obviously, there's no single method that works for all types of paper. I'm talking to you about the paper I'm using today, which is quite thick and has had these different printings. So it's a paper that already has a good body to it, but also several layers of ink on top. So it's better to put on a bit more, better not to skimp, not to remove too much excess from the sides, but above all, the best thing to do is to wait, not to rush, and try to understand when the paper starts to look good, full of glue. Perfect for being trimmed properly. 10 minutes have passed and I'm already applying the second generous layer. Make sure it's quite generous, because if you end up with spots, corners, or areas where you haven't put enough glue, obviously the paper will come off. Some people often ask me, Elisa, why don't you use wallpaper with spray glue anymore? It's not that I don't use it anymore. It's just that if I have to do small pieces in drawers or small, confined areas where the paper doesn't weigh too much on the furniture, I can use spray glue. Otherwise, no, I'm more inclined towards this particular type of glue, which is really perfect and ideal for wallpaper. Let's start from the very top center, right here, because that's where your eye always naturally falls. So it's best to be more precise and careful in that specific spot. Brilliant. Slowly and gently, listen to this sound. This is sturdy paper. You don't need to be afraid to try it. These pieces of furniture are usually a bit crooked, partly because they are made by craftsmen and not in a factory, and partly because these woods move and naturally tend to be a little crooked. So what do? We always cut the paper about 1 centimeter larger, then we apply it carefully, and in some spots we trim it with a knife. Here, I save myself a step by using a damp microfiber cloth. Why? Because the damp microfiber cloth helps the paper become moist, and in this way, it will absorb the glue underneath better and more quickly. So it helps me be more precise and also saves me time. Look, you see, obviously when you go over it with the cloth, the paper starts to stretch and becomes more malleable. But above all, what you need to notice is that this paper is so beautiful and of such high quality that you can even use a damp cloth on it and it doesn't budge. So we make sure it sticks well, use a spatula, and trim with the knife. We start here, a precise cut along the edge. I flip it to avoid any damage. Gently. And voila! Look how beautiful. The combination with the Nuit Parisienne is truly amazing. I finish off the last few sides. Then I put my assembled sideboard on its feet and we start to see where we are. This chest of drawers that we have pampered in every way up until now, and it has become truly beautiful again. Chest of drawers with display cabinet. We protect it 2 ways. Wooden parts with wax and Restauratore, the more worn green parts with a matte protective coating. Why? Because I love wood protected with wax, nourished and beautiful. On the other hand, the green part could be subject to a lot of wear because it might end up in the kitchen, so it could be cleaned often and whatever is involved with a kitchen cabinet. So I use double protection. Not that wax isn't good, but I prefer, since I don't know where this piece will end up in my shop, and I want it to be protected so that it can be easily cleaned even with surfactants. Remember, though, not to use spray bottles, as those are still surfactants, on wood. You should not use a degreasing product on wood. First, because it will damage the wood, and secondly, as it removes the wax layer. Since it's a degreaser, it removes the wax layer. Here, I've prepared some steel wool, the Restauratore that I'll apply in a bit, and Jasmine Wax. They need to be applied in many layers. A special brush that I always use for oil, wax, or Restauratore. I load it up well with wax, and I spread it well over this wood that needs to be nourished. And now look at how much this wax brings out, and how much this wood comes to life. Look at the color that comes out. It's something incredible. It's not as if the color disappears when it dries. If the treatment with wax and Restauratore is done properly, the wood will be beautiful, nourished, smooth, and velvety. And what am I going to do now to make it so perfect? I spread the wax, take my steel wool, and I've put on plastic just so I don't scrape my hands, because I always go at it decisively and then end up hurting myself. I gently massage it in like this, obviously following the natural grain of the wood, you see. It helps you to make the wax penetrate deeply. It helps you to pamper this wood even more. It will become velvety. It will become incredibly smooth. And in a few hours, it will be perfect to receive the final touch, but also the most important one, which is that of the Restauratore. If you run your hand over wood finished with wax like this, it feels unbelievably velvety. So it's not just the product, but the product and the way you use it. Now I'll do it over the top surface. Once it's dry, I'll also show you how to apply the Restauratore. But one important thing is that the product must be used properly, and to achieve long-lasting results and really nourish the furniture, you can't just grab a brush and slap it on. You really have to pamper and take care of the wood. So I work the wax into the wood, pressing it in, making sure it really gets in there, penetrates the grain and the veins, and nourishes it completely. This piece of furniture was about to end up at the landfill. Who would have thought it would end up becoming a piece of furniture like this instead? Regardless of the choices I made in matching the colors and the paper in this way are entirely personal and not up for debate. You should take inspiration from what I show you and make it your own. So you don't need to say to me, Elisa, how lovely. Elisa should be useful to you. And if you like it, well, good for you. The wood is dry and it hasn't changed color. Now I move on to the Restauratore. I put it directly onto the brush. Not here. And I apply it so that it deeply and thoroughly hydrates the wood. If you want, you can also use a crossed brush stroke so it really penetrates deeply. Today, you'll already see it looking better, but tomorrow the wood will look spectacular because the Restauratore keeps penetrating the wood and completely transforms it. What I do is spread it on, but before I finish the whole surface, I also start to polish it, because it needs to be polished while it's still soft. You can't call it wet. I'm just talking about it being soft. Because, obviously, it's like a cream that gets super absorbed by the wood, but now I'm going to do my final coat on this beautiful piece of wood. I'm using a crossed brush stroke, so it really gets deep into the grain. I smooth it out one more time, and then I start to polish it. But please, stay right here, because what's about to happen next is truly beautiful. I take an old, soft rag, perhaps an old, clean sheet, smooth, without any annoying fluff, and you gently massage it in. To the touch, you'll immediately feel an incredible velvet texture because the wood will be completely sealed and deeply hydrated, and it will also stay incredibly shiny. Franco, please touch it. Like a baby's butt. To make you understand, this isn't just an extra step you do, it's really the key difference when it comes to hydrating and caring for the wood. Restyling isn't just about coloring the wood, it's about restoring it completely. When restoring with color, You need to use paints that adhere well to the surface and last for years. When you pamper the wood, you must do it right. So now I'll carry on. Matte protective coating over the entire colored part. I apply it with the Architetta brush because it goes exactly where I want it to, like a good lad. Into the crevices. Look here, inside the little designs too, in the most saturated parts, everywhere. The product gets everywhere. Then, when I want to smooth it out, I do it. Some furniture requires choosing the right brush for a better restyling outcome. I'm not saying this to make you spend more on brushes. If you don't want to struggle and do a good job, use the right brush. If you tell an expert decorator you use one brush for everything, they'll think you're mad. There are different brushes for different purposes. Look here now. Obviously, I always have to follow the brush stroke or, in any case, the grain of the wood. So here too I press down deeply, making sure to get right into the edge, and then I finish everything off here, following the wood here. I smooth it out like this, removing any possible drips by brushing well. This way, I won't have any more flaws, no drips, nothing at all, and I haven't even had to struggle. Remember that, once it dries, the matte protective coating will be invisible. The matte protective disappears completely, the satin stays satin, and the gloss remains glossy, really shiny. You can't see the matte at all. It looks like there's only magic paint. It's practically the same as wax, and it's a choice I absolutely love. This restyling is finished, and today I won't show it in a setting because I don't know where to put it. After taking it to my shop, I'll place it nicely at the entrance, as I do with every new piece. It will stay there for a few weeks. Then we'll see if it sells immediately or if I move it elsewhere. The important thing is that you always see the combinations we create, and you understand that we do our best to help you choose colors. Even black, which might seem more aggressive, when placed next to soft wallpaper and gentle color like Olivia, takes on different tones and shades, doesn't it? Look how good it looks combined with raw wood, which here too has been massaged, pampered, and nourished with wax and Restauratore. It's a sight to behold. I love creating these mixes where restyling brings out the best in old wood. Saying restyling ruins or damages furniture is nonsense, because if it weren't for restyling, this piece would have ended up at the landfill. Do you know why? Because a restorer thought it wasn't worth the effort, and that's why I fight against this idea, because it is worth it. You decide if it's not worth it. Magic Paint paints are Italian, guaranteed, certified, and you can only find them on elisahome.com or the authorized resellers listed by region on magicpaint.it. They are not available on Amazon. Remember, behind this is a reputable Italian company work. It's up to you to decide what to use on your furniture. Goodbye.